Hey Radiant Souls, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. I'm having a good day so far. It's going to be a busy one for me with lots of appointments coming up, but I wanted to stop by here and connect with you first thing in the morning because I want to share with you some tips for consciously connecting with ourselves, with one another, and with our pets. So around 5 years ago, I was invited to speak at a wellness seminar, a holistic wellness seminar. And as is usual for me, I went really right up until the week before without knowing what I was going to talk about. So now, 5 years since that day, I have lots of different topics that I talk about and lots of kind of pre-written things depending on where I go, what kind of workshop I show up to teach at. But 5 years ago, I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants. And I'm only telling this story because it's also an example of how we can work with our intuition. So the opportunity to speak at this conference came up. It was a great opportunity. It was a great network of people, but I didn't know what I wanted to talk about. I knew I wanted to go, so I said yes, but I had no idea. And right up until about a week before, I still had no idea, and it was an hour slot that I needed to fill. So back then I was doing a lot of hiking, daily in fact, and so on one of my daily hikes, I just said, you know what, I surrender to whatever needs to come through because the opportunity for the conference came up. I'm obviously supposed to do it. It felt aligned, but can a girl get some help with, what I want to talk about? And I've learned over the years, I don't know if you're the same, but for me, if I try to force something creative, it doesn't really work out the way I want it to. So it's more of an opening up to and just kind of saying, how can I show up and serve? How can I bring forth this information and what needs to come through me for this group of people that I'm speaking in front of? So as I was hiking that particular day, I saw the word aware come up, A-W-A-R-E, and I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Can I make something out of that? And it was this back and forth exchange with my guides and myself crafting what turned out to be this really cool template or blueprint for how to have a conscious connection. And on the day of the event, I was specifically there on behalf of speaking to our pet relationships with animals, but this actually extends beyond that. It extends to our relationship with ourselves, to our relationship with other humans, and to our relationship with our pets. So as I go through this today, I'm going to talk about each of those because they all come into play and I want to just paint a full picture. But I just wanted to tell the background story of that because I think sometimes there's a misconception or misperception that intuition is just this thing that kind of descends from on high like a beam of sunlight and you're just suddenly enlightened and you have all that you need. And it's not always like that. It can be a call and answer. It can be a collaboration. It's a relationship. And I have another video here on my channel about working with your guides and honoring the fact that it is that relationship. So if that kind of thing interests you, you can check that out too. But back to how to consciously connect with ourselves, other people, and our pets. So the aware method is, like I said, it's a template, it's a blueprint. When you run into a snag, when you're having a fight with, a coworker, or your boss is getting on your nerves, or your husband or your wife is getting on your nerves, or the kids are a little too much for you, or you have a behavior issue you want to solve with a pet, or you feel like you're at a crossroads with yourself. We all get to that from time to time, don't we? Where you just kind of think, I could be doing better. Just as me, I could be doing a better job of being me. So what do you do in those moments? Where do you start? How do you walk yourself back to finding something to grab hold of and consciously connect? So the aware method is where you can start for that if you find it useful. So it's an acronym, AWARE, and each of the letters is a step in the process. So the first A is a pretty simple one, but it's one because our human mind tries to overcompensate and kind of run away with the more advanced answers. We often forget to start simply. So the first A is to acknowledge the impact of the physical environment. So especially those of us in this community who are pursuing things like intuition and ascension and 5D and all that fun stuff that we like to dabble in, we still have to be here and be human, and we still have to relate to other humans as humans, and we have to relate to our pets on this physical third dimensional plane as well. So if we look at our relationship with ourselves, let's start with that one under this acknowledge the impact of the physical environment step. Let's say you have an issue with your energy during the day where you wake up and there's maybe a good 10 or 15 minutes where you feel like, yeah, I can go get it, I can claim the day, and then that fades. And the rest of the day, you're really up against it, and you have to really dig down and find some energy to get through your day. Often, in this community in particular, because we're looking at these kind of advanced concepts, we want to say, I'm out of line with my spiritual path, or I need to have a DNA activation, or I need to connect with a past life, or I need to do something kind of in that realm, and that may be true. And those are absolutely helpful. But let's start while we're looking at dissecting some of the things where we get disconnected with ourselves. Let's start with just saying, are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating properly for you? That can be different things for different people. Are you getting the nutrients that you need? Maybe not just from food, but from supplements. Are you getting enough activity during the day? Are you replenishing your store of energy in that way? Are you caring for the vehicle that is carrying your spirit? Because that's just as important. We can be spiritual beings, and we are spiritual beings, but we're here in a human meat suit, so we have to take care of that. Or the other piece doesn't work as effectively, and we can feel disjointed, we can feel disconnected. If we look at this first A step of acknowledging the physical environment, when we think of working with other people or relating with other people, just having that concept that they too may be having an off day, they may be yelling at you, they may be impatient with you, they may be pushing your buttons because they are not looking after their own physical thing. And that doesn't mean you sit there and judge them and say, oh, well, clearly I see you are not, taking care of yourself. That's not it. Just to have the compassion for that maybe they aren't currently being a caretaker of themselves in the best and highest, with the best and highest good in mind, and to cut them some slack for that. So just to have that line of sight into that. And then when we think of our pets, the same thing we tend to as pet parents, we tend to jump to conclusions a lot. We want, oh, so-and-so looks anxious. He's pacing around the house. It must be this huge condition. It must be this thing. Let me jump online and see what I can diagnose my pet with. When really it could be they need to care for their physical body, or you need to help them care for something in the physical world as well. So a dog being anxious, for example, might just need more exercise. A dog being anxious might need more structure in their day than you give. Pets have personalities just like we do. Some of them really like routine. Some of them prefer, go with the flow. So just looking at those different things. Are they eating the best food that you can provide for them? Are they getting the nutrients that they need? All of that comes into play because just like us, they're spiritual beings that have dropped into this physical body. So that's step number one, just thinking about the groundedness of something, the physical environment, and acknowledging that can have an impact on whatever it is that's making you feel disconnected with yourself, with someone else, or a pet. The second step is W of aware, AW, and that's to watch your output. So I think a lot of us are familiar or becoming more familiar with the fact that your thoughts and your emotions shape your reality. So if you are feeling disconnected from yourself, and you keep telling yourself the same story, I'm not good enough. I wish I could do what she does. Look at him, he wrote a book by the age of 35. I'm already 50. That ship sailed for me. Whatever stories you're telling yourself, you're gonna see made manifest in front of you. That's how it works. So having the presence of mind to be the observer of what you're thinking and what you're feeling, those two things are not in the driver's seat. You are. So you kick them back in the back seat of the station wagon, not even the middle seat, like stick them all the way in the back. And you take control of driving and say, I acknowledge that. And you can then revert back to the first step even. Okay, if I'm feeling unworthy, am I getting enough sleep? Am I depleted energetically? Have I been, getting outside to get fresh air? Go through those steps of the physical and see if that could be contributing to that output. Same thing in a relationship with another person. The way I see relationships energetically is almost like a triangle. So I have energy, the person I'm in relationship with has an energy signature, and then the relationship as a whole has that blended energy. So when we think about our output, what are we putting up into the point of that triangle? What are we feeding up there? Because it's going to feed back down to that other person. So just having the mindfulness of that. And when we think about our relationship with our pets, man, are they so connected with us at an energetic level. So when we are thinking, oh my gosh, so-and-so is sick, what am I going to do? They're limping. They don't look like they feel good. They've licked a paw too much. They've got a hot spot. Whatever it is, that freak out of oh no, oh no, oh no that we tend to do. Again, if you think about that relationship triangle, that's putting that energy out there, and your pet is then going to be affected by it, potentially. So if you're feeling that disconnect, look at that as well. What are you feeding into the environment around you through your thoughts and your feelings? The third A in AWARE, AWA, is my favorite step of all, I think. I hate to pick a favorite, but I will. And that is acknowledging the superhero story. So similar to our output, this is how we reshape that output. So I'm going to start with pets because that's where I see it most often, but I'm starting to see it with people a lot too. When we particularly those of us in the rescue group or have worked with rescue organizations, we tend to tell our pets sad stories over and over and over, almost as part of their identity. I kind of picture it like instead of my name is Dexter, it's like my name is, oh my gosh, I had this horrible upbringing. Won't you please love me? And I understand from a rescue perspective, that's part of how they gain followers and how people get moved to want to help. We have to tell those stories to a certain degree. But if you've adopted a pet and it's been a month, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and you're still telling the fact that they were abused or they came from this situation or that situation or they had this medical condition, and you find yourself telling it over and over and over, you're laying an energetic imprint of that condition on that pet. And just imagine that if you went out to dinner with, let's say you're meeting, a fiance's family for the first time. So you're meeting your future in-laws and your fiance says, Heather is really amazing, but she had all this tragic stuff happen in her past. And let me give you the 411 on all these horrible things that happened to her. You don't get a chance to be in the present moment because you've been painted with the colors of your past. So we do that really, really often with our pets. And I'll use my dog Ginger, who's no longer with us, but she's a great example. She was absolutely the sweetest, happiest, honestly would not hurt a flea. She would look at a flea and be like, hello, tiny friend. Thank you for crawling on me. But as a puppy, when I adopted her from the shelter, the story that came with her was she was tossed in a dumpster. Somebody found her and her siblings in a dumpster. They had just tossed out the whole litter. So had I continued to tell that story of this beautiful, joyful, absolutely pure, loving creature, like that would have been an injustice to her to keep telling that story in that way. You can shift the story. Turn it into a superhero story. So for Ginger, she overcame that. And I used to kind of envision her putting on a little cape and flying out of the dumpster to say, I am here to send love and light when it was not first given to me. So I've also had clients, hi if you're watching, who have bought little capes for their pets to help them kind of retell their pet story when they had maybe a scary medical condition or something happened to them. You want to break that pattern and retell that story as a superhero story. And if you look at, for example, the Marvel movies, the Avengers and whatnot, Every superhero has that kind of weirdness or that quirk or that situation that went wrong that they then use to become powerful, or is used in part of their superhero story. So do your pets that honor of retelling their story as well and empower them. Same thing for yourself. If you have those stories you're telling yourself, I can't be a public speaker because this is honestly one I could tell myself easily. I can't speak in public or on camera because when I was 17 years old, I was on stage in a pageant dress with 30 other girls, and I fell down on stage and the whole audience of 2,000 plus people gasped. True story. That was me. In the presence and composure section of a pageant where you're supposed to be really graceful, I fell down the steps. I could have used that to say, you know what, clearly I'm not supposed to be in front of people. But it's kind of instead, I've shaped it into a really funny story and I use it as kind of a, screw that, I'm overcoming that. But that was a fear for sure. And we all have those moments. I just like to share my embarrassing ones here in front of thousands of people because why not? I've already fallen on stage, right? It happened. But stop telling yourself the sad story because you're locking in those limitations for yourself. So rephrase it as a superhero story for yourself and allow that energy of possibility to blossom up within you. The next step of AWARE, A-W-A-R, is to recognize the soul connection. So I think in this community, we're all pretty good with that. We know that, like I've been saying, we're a spirit here in a physical body and a physical existence. But it can be hard sometimes as we're going through our day and we see bad things happening in the world, or we see conflict. Again, the coworker we don't like, or the boss who's riding our behinds to get things done, or whatever it is. The spouse who leaves the dirty socks on the floor, whatever. It's hard to feel really spiritually enlightened in those moments. But it helps us connect with ourselves, with our human relationships, and with our pets when we can pull back that perspective and say, you know what, we are all here in kind of a simulation. This is all a game. All of it's a hologram. So I'm not going to let fear detract me from what I need to do. Fear is not going to pull me out of my joy. Apathy is not going to settle in on me when I could take action and have, again, joy, gratitude, compassion. Whatever it is, pull back to the soul level for yourself. Recognize the soul connection that you have with yourself. What would your higher self want you to do in that moment to grow? It's what we're all here to do, to grow and to learn. When you're talking to someone, maybe having an argument, pull back to that spiritual level. What is this person showing me about myself? What am I missing here in this situation? Everybody we relate with is connected to us in some way. So what is that connection? And can that connection and honoring that and just witnessing it, again, being mindful of it, can that help me not feel at odds in such a big way? And I'm not saying it's a magic pill. We still have to have the conflict. We still have to solve the things. So that's part of how we learn as well. It's the muscle that we're building when we're here being human. But it just gives you a different perspective. And then with your pets, realizing that this physical existence you share with them is not the end of it. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of the larger relationship you have with them at a soul level. And then the final step, kind of tying it all together, is to enable balance through energetics. So for me, energetics is really anything that helps you balance your energy. So it can be energy healing, it can be going for a walk in nature, it can be developing a grounding practice for yourself. Whatever it is that really helps you smooth over and heal yourself energetically. Because even though in this community too, I know I'm singing our praises, we're very aware and conscious of everything is energy around us. Our thoughts are creating things energetically. The body is wired energetically down to even the subatomic parts of the cell. it's one thing to understand it as a concept. It's another to constantly kind of refresh that and set the energetic thermostat for yourself throughout the day. So to give an example, today I talked about at the very beginning, I think it's been a while, it's a pretty busy day for me. I have back-to-back appointments for most of the day. So pretty much 8 straight hours of appointments. And I also have a couple of art commissions to do, and I'm here filming this with you. Plus, just me being me, right? Taking the dog outside, getting ready in the morning, drinking the coffee, all that stuff. And everybody has busy days. I'm just using this as an example. What I find helpful to do is picture either a thermostat dial or even like a ladder. I know I need X amount of energy to show up and serve the people that I'm supposed to meet today. Where do I need to place myself on this ladder? Compared to yesterday was a day off for me. I did no interaction with clients. I did no artwork. It was just me doing whatever I wanted to do. I watched a couple of movies. I watched some seminars. I read a little bit. I did some yard work. I cleaned out the gutters. It was super fun, but it was just a different energy. I didn't need to come in at a 9 or a 10 energetically. I could kind of come in at a 3 and see where the day took me. So just having that kind of awareness for yourself and having the ownership to know I need to show up in a certain way and just enabling that balance for yourself, that ripples out into your relationship with yourself, ripples out into your relationship with others, and it ripples out into your relationship with your pets. So that's it. Aware, a template, a blueprint, something to just kind of keep in your back pocket when you feel stuck, you feel disconnected. See if one of those steps can help you kind of unstick things for yourself. That's all I've got today, my friends. I hope you have a most amazing day. I'll see you next time. Bye.